Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. We are taking a look today at the NHL playoff preview series that I'm continuing today. We're taking a look in the East Division, a matchup between the second seed Washington Capitals and the third seed Boston Bruins. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see more of these playoff preview series videos, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. And let's take a look at this matchup between the Boston Bruins and the Washington Capitals. So this is a big series. We have two pretty impressive teams, especially down the stretch. And it's a pretty interesting matchup, and we're going to get into that. So looking at the wins. So the Boston Bruins won 4 of these games, and the Washington Capitals won 3. Now, the Boston Bruins record in this series, they've only had one game out of the 7 matchups. They've only picked up a point in 7 of the 8 matchups against the Washington Capitals, which means we've seen a little bit of extra innings or extra hockey in this case. 4-1-2 against the Washington Capitals this season, a pretty impressive record. 3-4 for the Capitals in this stretch with the Boston Bruins. You look at the points, 10 points for the Bruins and only 6 for the Capitals. You look at the goals for, 25 goals for in this matchup here with the Bruins. So in 7 games, 25 goals, not too bad for the Boston Bruins, and 22 for the Washington Capitals. So pretty fair matchup in that regard. You look at who's really been performing in this series. For the Washington Capitals, he's got a goal and 8 assists in this series. That is 9 points for Nick Backstrom in the 7 games in this series. But Brad Marchand has 7 goals, 6 assists for 13 points in the 7 meetings between these two teams. So almost 2 points per game in this matchup. So make sure to watch Brad Marchand in this series. These two teams have a lot of underlying, issues, I guess you could say. But you could also say they have a lot of things that make them a really dangerous team. Of course, you're looking at the Washington Capitals. You have Ovechkin, Backstrom, and guys like that. Tom Wilson, when he's in the lineup, those guys are they're a pain in the neck to deal with. And they have had their fair share of issues, though. Obviously, with Evgeny Kuznetsov, we've seen some stuff come out about him recently that maybe he's not fitting in that well with Washington. And that could be some outside noise that is a distraction of the Capitals this season. Not to mention everything that's happened with Tom Wilson over the past couple weeks. That is also adding another layer of distraction to the Washington Capitals. So that is something to keep an eye on the red side of things. Now, looking at the black and gold side of things for the Boston Bruins, they have had their own issues as well, but more recently, they have been one of the hottest teams in the NHL. You look at where they were with the Rangers a couple weeks back, fighting it out for that last playoff spot. The Bruins have now taken sole possession of 3rd place in the division, so they have clearly jumped their game a lot. They've beaten some big teams like the New York Islanders. They found a way to beat the Rangers in a couple of those matchups down the stretch. So they're a team that is going to be a threat here in this series with the Capitals. And you look at probably the most interesting thing out of this whole thing is you look at from Matt Larkin. He made a tweet saying, since the Taylor Hall trade at the NHL trade deadline, Marchand, Bergeron, and Pastrnak, which is the perfection line, have 36.2% of Boston's goals this season. So almost 40%. Hall, Krejci, and Craig Smith have a 32.8% of the rest of the Boston Bruins goals. This is the balance Boston desperately needed. Going to be a tough out in the playoffs. So 60%, over 60% of their goal scoring since the trade deadline, since Taylor Hall, has been from the top 2 lines for the Bruins, which is very impressive. And like he mentioned in this article, this is the balance the Bruins needed, and they needed that extra guy. And unfortunately, Jake DeBrusk may be on his way out because Taylor Hall seems to be the real deal. And he's playing really well with the Boston Bruins. I mean, he scored again the other night against the New York Islanders. He has been an Islander killer recently. Taylor Hall is a really talented player. And this is a guy that going into this series could be an issue for the Washington Capitals. So, like I said, we've already talked about the backstory of these two teams. Washington kind of seemed like they were running away with the division for a while. Then the Islanders and Penguins crept back in. The Boston Bruins have had a really nice amount of success over the past couple of weeks, really months now. So you're seeing two different tales of a different story coming together in this first round matchup in the East Division. So now my prediction. Who do we have winning this series? And it's hard to argue the Washington Capitals because they are, they've been so consistent throughout most of the season. They have some really talented players. They added Anthony Mantha at the deadline, making that big move. They have Ovechkin. They have Backstrom. Their goaltending is a little bit suspect, and that is something about the Capitals, I will admit, that could hurt them in this year's postseason. And unlike the Boston Bruins, who have had a very good goaltending tandem, and even Yaroslav Halak has found himself out of the lineup because of guys like Swayman coming in and kind of taking up that backup role behind Tuukka Rask. So, hard to argue that with the way the Bruins have been playing that they cannot win this series. I really like what they have done, and I'm going to go with the Boston Bruins here in this series, beating the Washington Capitals. I'm going to say in 6 games. I think the Washington Capitals are going to be a really tough out. But the way the Bruins have been playing, the way their goaltending has been, the way they're getting production from those top 2 lines, it's going to be really hard to beat the Boston Bruins in the playoffs. Just how successful they've been here going into the postseason. And like I said, Washington's goaltending, maybe some of those outside distractions with Kuznetsov and Wilson, it could be a hindrance as the series goes along, and it could be just enough of a difference for the Bruins to where they could win this series. And I'm going with the Boston Bruins winning this series in 6 games. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Let me know your predictions for this first round matchup in the East Division between the Bruins and the Capitals. Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and let's go Bruins.